This video is a basic overview of the CensusIDB International Database website. I'll leave a link to the website in the description of the video below. So the CensusIDB website is basically separated into three different distinct parts. The country dashboard, which allows you to look individually at a given country or a world region, and it'll show you things like the age structure, the certain measures like population growth. Compare countries is another feature that allows you to basically look simultaneously at multiple countries at the same time. And then trends by measure is basically allowing you to look over time at a particular measure. So let's start with the country dashboard and let's look at how that works basically. So notice here you can click on this and this will allow you to change the country that you want to look at. So you can look at the entire world, for example. Let's take a look at Afghanistan, a country in Asia. So we can click OK. We can actually change the year. So if I don't want to look at 2020, I can look at 2021, for example. Notice that I can change here the dashboard. I could look at this information, or I could look at the population by different age groups. So let's first start with the dashboard. So what information is being shown for Afghanistan in the year 2021? So first we have the mid-year population. We see that Afghanistan has a population of 37.5 million people. Here's the exact population. It's increasing at an average annual rate of growth of 2.3%. We see the population density, which is the number of people per square kilometer in Afghanistan. The total fertility rate in that year, which is a fairly high value of 4.72. The underage mortality rate per thousand, and the life expectancy at birth, which is a very low 50.3.3 in Afghanistan. And so here's some other information that you're shown. Here's for example, is a graph of the population of Afghanistan over time. We see that it starts in 1950 and it ends in 2100, which is obviously a projected year. Notice that if you scroll along the values of the line, it shows you the exact value for a given year. So for example, in 2019, we see that Afghanistan had a population of 35,739,709 people. We can also see that there's a graph of the annual growth rate, which again has the ability to look at the different growth rates for individual years. If you scroll through it, below here is the population pyramid, and so you can see the age and sex structure of Afghanistan in the year 2021. Notice that if you hit the play button here, it will actually advance the population pyramid over time, and you can actually set the increments by which it changes from, let's say, single years, 5 years, etc. So that'll show you basically how the population is projected to change over time, which is interesting. Also shown is the rate of the total fertility rate and the life expectancy at birth by sex. And again, you can just kind of scroll on different values within the graphs to see the exact value over time. Notice that here you can click on these if you want to download the formats. You can choose either a PDF or a JPEG in this case. You can hit this source information so you can see where the information is coming from. So you can see basically that for the population, there was a data collection in the year 2006. So it collected information on 5-year age groups by sex. There's some information on fertility that also comes from 2006. And so that will help you complete the data section of one of the assignments. Let's look at the different options below the dashboard. So you can see that you can click on population by age, and you can look at various different categories. So you can look at, for example, single year age groups. So here's the population of people between the ages of 0 and this goes down to 14, but there's more pages. So if you go to the end, it goes to 100 plus. And you can see the population is given for the total, just males, and then just females. You can also look at 5-year age groups. Broad age groups is actually pretty useful because that will give you the 0 to 14, 15 to 64, and 65 plus populations, which you could use to calculate the old age dependency ratio and the general dependency ratio. So now let's look at the compare countries option. So with compare countries, you can actually look at particular countries, not just a single country. So you can choose different countries here by clicking the select by country area and putting check marks next to any countries that you want. Notice you can click on all of them. If you want all of them, you can hit clear if you don't want it to have any countries. Let's look at Afghanistan compared to Albania. I'm going to put check marks in those boxes and click OK. And so I can basically look at any aspect that I want. There's a demographic overview, components of population growth, fertility, mortality, migration. I like to look at a custom report. So if I hit custom report and hit OK, and if I hit down here where it says custom report columns, I can actually choose whatever information I want. And so let's say that I want to look at, for example, the age-specific fertility rates for these two countries. So these will be age-specific fertility rates in different age ranges. And so if I just click OK, it'll give me the age-specific fertility rate between 15 and 19. I think this one is 20 to 24, and so on. So again, I can kind of download this. I can download it in Excel format or as a CSV file, and then I can graph it or I can work with it, whatever I want to do. I could look at different measures. So if I wanted to clear these out, I could also look at, for example, the migration measures. So I could look at like net migration. And so you can see both countries had a negative net migration rate. Let's now take a look at trends by country. And so you can see that once you've selected a measure, which you can always change right here, it will graph over time what the measure looks like. And notice that you can change the beginning year to 1950. You can extend it all the way out at the time of making this video to 2100. Looks like the time series starts at about 1979. So let me just change this to 1979 so we can kind of better see the pattern without years that aren't really included in the data set. So again, if you just kind of scroll for different points on the graphs, you can see that the low of migration in Afghanistan was 1981, which actually had a negative value. So more people were leaving Afghanistan than were coming into it through migration. Afghanistan had a peak of in-migration in 1992. We can compare the trends. It's like Albania had kind of a trough of migration in 1991. And so you can choose any number of different measures. So if I'm not interested in migration, I could look at other things like maybe infant mortality, for example. So I just highlight it and click OK. And basically it'll allow you for whatever countries you want to look at the trends over time in any of the different measures. So I hope that this brief overview of the CensusIDB website has been useful to you and will help you to finish the assignments.